Buffett was electrified. He invested roughly half of his net worth into GEICO stock, made a 50% return in just 1 year before selling, a decision he would eventually reverse by buying the whole company 45 years later.
Yeah, something around that story too is the executive was so impressed that somebody would show up on a Saturday. He's like, yeah, I'll give you some time. I'll give you my 4 hours to answer any questions, walk you through our business model, because anybody willing to show up on a Saturday is serious about this stuff.
Yeah,
when you could be sleeping in, when you could be watching cartoons, when you could be doing literally anything else, you're here asking about GEICO.
And he's 21 years old. I mean, of
Right.
course, he had his master's and everything, but he's 21 and he's like, or 20 at this point, because it's right before he graduated. And he's like, no, I'm going to go down here and hang out with you, and I want to learn about this business. And he said, I'm like, looked like a 12-year-old. I was just giddy. I was excited. And I think I made an impression on him. And it goes to show how your curiosity, not only is it a tool for you to receive information, but it's also a tool that for you to convey how much interest you have in somebody else's life or circumstance or what they're doing. And, you know, sometimes that can be a little bit nosy, seen as nosy, but other times it can be just a way to connect with people. And
who are passionate about the same thing.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that's a really big thing right there. We could also say that while he was another thing to highlight is while he was this interim period before working with Benjamin Graham full time, he took a Dale Carnegie course in public speaking, and he said that this changed his life. It brought him out of his shyness, but it also taught him how to communicate. And he's one of these people that talk about how and why communication is such an important tool for an executive. And he's one of these guys that hosts these annual shareholder meetings, where he would invite everybody to Omaha. And I think part of that is due to the idea that he just values communication at such a high,
and to the point where he doesn't take credit for it. Like he had this whole thing where he was ghostwriting a column in the newspaper for years, telling people and explaining things to, you know, who reads the newspaper, the housewife, you know, the families. It's like, if you can't explain it to them, you don't really know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
And so being able to teach is another way to sharpen your communication skills.
This is huge. I mean, them just being teachers right now, I was listening to somebody talking about why they had such a good reputation for such a long time. I mean, we're going to get into reputation in the second episode, because that's something that he's like, guard with your life. Yeah,
he's one of the most favorably looked at billionaires in the world right now.
And I think a big part of it is he just values teaching. This is the thing that I heard, is that he's always giving information and teaching people, hey, this is how I'm doing it. I'm not going to try and make it seem like it's mystical or woo-woo or anything. There's a very practical way. Now, if you want to accept that or not, that's on you. And most people don't. Even today, we see that a lot. Fundamental analysis is gone. Value investing is gone. It's like, that to me is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, taking from Charlie Munger's standpoint, it's like, you have to be an idiot to believe that fundamental analysis of a company that you're about to buy is irrelevant, and only looking at just the trends is, in fact, fundamental analysis incorporates trend data, because you're trying to find out the most important indicators of whether or not this company is valuable. But again, that's something that we can save for this.
We're definitely going to save for the super secret, because I'm also curious on your take on AI hype and how that plays into the, you know, fundamental value equations. But
so just kind of bringing this home. So one thing with when he was working there with Benjamin Graham finally offered him the job. It started at $12,000 per year. He worked alongside Walter Schloss, another future investing legend, in a spare room. His job was manually computing the liquidation value of companies, filling out forms for Graham to make investment decisions. He learned value investing firsthand, the rigorous mathematical approach to stock selection. Graham was insisted on a wide margin of safety, buying companies trading below their liquidation value. This is cigar butt investing. And basically that's like picking up discarded cigars and cigarettes for one last free puff. That's kind of was his mentality about it. Graham and Newman generated an average of annual returns of 17% over its 20-year history. And then in 1956, when Warren Buffett was about 25, 26, Benjamin Graham retired, closed Graham and Newman in 1956. Buffett was about 25. He had accumulated about $174,000, so probably over $1 million
today.
and could have stayed in New York and worked for any firm on Wall Street, but instead he returned back to Omaha. And of course, I mean, the guy loves Omaha. Stuck off there, went back to school there. But yeah, and that's where he's been for, you know,
the next 70 years.
Yeah.
I think that's like a good spot to pick up on in part 2, where he does start that return to Omaha and then build out his entire castle.
Yeah.
His foundation of how he then acquires all these other companies, his whole entire run with Berkshire, and all that stuff that we'll cover in part 2.
Cool.
Anything else you wanted to say for part 1?
No, man. I think that was a kind of a cool little. I've never really seen somebody just like, you know, cover his origin story like that. In the early beginning. So. And
we're gonna do a little bit more of that in this week's Super Secret.
Yeah.
So check that out on Constance.
Yes.
And we'll see you next week.
Yes. Constance.com/foundersdrive. Constance.com/foundersdrive.
In the link in the description, and we'll see you next week with a part 2 on Warren Buffett. Peace.